Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host and head witch, Miss Solaris Blue Raven at the helm this evening. I want to give a shout out to everybody at Revolution Radio, staff, producers, listeners, chat room, and thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We are 100% listener supported, so if you like what you're hearing, please click on the donate button. We appreciate your support and thank you for any contribution you can make to this excellent station. And you are listening to Studio A. And my special guest this evening is Lorien Fenton. I'm very excited to have her on tonight. And Lorien Fenton became actively involved in the San Francisco Bay Area UFO community after almost dying from a mysterious form of pneumonia during the H1N1 scare of summer in 2009. It was that near-death experience which propelled her into doing the work she loves in a community that she has been passionate about her entire life. Currently, Lorien is the Marin Sonoma MUFON section director, holding meetings in Petaluma, California, on the first Saturday of the month. Visit www.mufonmarinsonoma.com. And in September of 2011, what Lorien calls her second awakening took place in LA when she met Max Spiers and James Rink, both super soldiers. She will discuss what happened to her that took what she thought was her life's work in the UFO community to encompass the fight against the evil cabal that she now believes truly run our world. She's a business manager covering all aspects from web design and bookkeeping to marketing and PR, to UFO, paranormal, crypto, alien, Bigfoot, mind control, super soldier, black ops, etc., authors, presenters, and researchers. She is also a part-time bookkeeper and has her own publishing company, LAFing Press. Lorien is the co-producer of UFO CON and a producer of the first Super Soldier Summit in June of 2012, the Super Soldiers and Mind Control Summit in May of 2013, and the upcoming Mind Control Summit 3 in Las Vegas on May 30th, 31st, and June 1st of 2014. And if that wasn't enough, she has several talk shows weekly on Revolution Radio called The Fenton Perspective, which is a fabulous show, and is the host of the California MUFON Radio Show on Inception Radio Network. This summer, she starts another weekly show entitled Mind Control Radio, which will include weekly reports from super soldiers, the mind-controlled, targeted individuals, elf victims, transhumanism, and much more. Visit website www.mindcontrolsummit.com and click on the Contact Us for more information and to connect with Lorien. And please welcome Lorien to the show this evening. Lorien, how you doing?
Hey, Solaris, I'm doing great. Oh, my God. Gosh, I've never heard my bio read out loud before. You're the very first one to ever do it.
Yay!
Oh, my God, I'm tired just listening to it.
Oh, that's a mouthful. No, it's great. Well, I'm glad you sent me a bio. Yeah, people need to know exactly what you're about.
Yeah, everybody that listens to Revolution Radio pretty much knows who I am, and they pretty much know what I stand for. So, I was wondering, where do you want to go with the show tonight? Because if you have questions for me about anything that's happened to me, I'd love to answer them.
Excellent.
I love answering questions. And then the other thing is, I'd love to take some time tonight to discuss the people that are going to be presenting at the Mind Control Summit 3, and you're one of them. So, yeah, we'll talk a little bit about what you're going to talk about at the event. And, so where do you want to go tonight?
Well, let's see. We can go anywhere, but I think that, I'd like to talk a little bit about your personal experiences, how you got involved with this, and whatever you feel guided to incorporate along the way. I think that's really important that people understand where you're coming from and your own personal experiences and how you were guided to pursue this path.
Well, oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to start this out with more than I ever have talked about before on any other show, I believe. During my tenure so far on Revolution Radio, for the first 6 months, I was telling people stories about different things that had happened to me involving the paranormal or the spiritual or the conscious life that is out there. And they were just very bizarre things that happened to me that I just thought were normal and happened to everybody else. Mm-hmm. And now that I look back on it in my old age, I finally realized, I guess that isn't normal. I had no idea that when people walk through walls in your house, that wasn't normal. And when you... I got to tell the funny story. Okay, I think everybody here at the station knows the rabbit story, so I'm not even going to go into that tonight. But I have a story that I don't think I've ever talked about on Revolution Radio. I may have, but if I haven't, it'll be fun anyhow. When I was in high school, my boyfriend had an old panel station wagon, and I can't remember for the life of me what type it was. And one day we decided to skip school. Gee, like we ever did that, huh? And so I think I was 16 and he was 17 or 18. I don't remember. But we drove up to Washougal, Washington from Portland, Oregon, and we all went to high school on the south side of Portland. We actually went to Jackson High School, and Jackson is no longer there because the experiment failed. They used to let us all leave the campus in the early 70s. They were trying what they called open campuses. And you'd go to your class, and then you could leave if you wanted to. Up until that time, in at least Portland, I don't know where else they were trying this, they were... everybody had to have a hall pass, and you couldn't leave the school once you got in there and the whole bit, unless you had a job. And, this is back in the 70s. I have no idea what they do now because I've never had children, so I don't know what the school system does at this point in time. But it seems to me that they're probably on lockdown pretty much too by now, because they actually had to close our high school because we were all leaving all the time, and that 50 to 75% of us were outside smoking pot all the time.
Oh gosh, so funny.
So it was like nobody was in the school. Everybody was outside, and it was quite wild of an experiment. It only lasted 3 years. And then they just said, that's it. They just stopped everything. So, anyhow, so one day we all decided, there were 6 of us, a girlfriend of mine, 3 friends of my boyfriend, and myself. So there were, what is that? 6 of us in the car. I don't remember who everybody was. And we took off to Washougal, Washington, which is quite a ways away. Must have been about 80 miles. And we were going to go up to a park up there, and there's a waterfall, and we were just going to have a good time, which we did. We get back in the car, and I had a horrible feeling, Lars. I was like, oh my God. We were all and I'll admit, I did inhale quite often for a few years. And we were all quite inebriated on the green ganja stuff. And we had a troll doll that hung from the car that was our car mask.
I remember those. Those are cute.
Oh, yeah. He had green hair, and we drew a little pot leaf on his belly. He was... And we called him Trolley, and that was his name, and he was our mascot for the car. Anyhow, so we got in the car, and I started having this just horrible feeling that we were all going to die. But I don't know how to explain it to people, but it's just, and Solaris, because you're psychic too. It's just this overwhelming sensation that you don't drive the car. It's this time I did not hear a voice in my head, and I have several times, and that's another 2 or 3 stories down the road. But at this time, I just got a horrible feeling. And I'll now remember who it was. Kevin, the guy that got in the car, that was my boyfriend Tony's friend. He got in the car, and he took one last hit off of a small joint we had, and he blew dope smoke on the troll. And that was the cardinal rule. I told everybody, don't ever get the troll stone, because if you get the troll stone, the car's going to crash. So I already had the feeling when I got in the car, and then he went and did that, and I was like, oh no, that's it. No. I told everybody, I said, put on your seatbelt. And my boyfriend got really mad at me. He goes, we don't need to wear a seatbelt. And I said, no, everybody put on your seatbelts. Put your seatbelts on. I'm not letting us leave until you all put your seatbelts on. So they all got mad at me, and they were just, really, they're being belligerent to a point of, well, I just said, no, I'm not going. And I said, if you're going to have to leave me here, then leave me here. I'm not getting in this. I'm getting out of the car if you don't put your seatbelts on. So they finally did. I mean, this took 15, 20 minutes of me, telling them they had to. And taking the keys, and I almost threw them into the stream because I was so mad at everybody for not listening to me. Anyhow, we start to leave, and we get going, and my boyfriend, I don't know what possessed him, Solaris. I don't know what he was thinking. He decided to pass a car in the rain on a curve up above this. Now, this is the Washougal River that we're going along, and it's very high up. It's probably about 300 yards to the bottom where the river, and it's just like a cliff straight down almost. And he decides to pass a car on a curve while it's raining. And I'm like, what the? And all of a sudden the car just slides off the road. Oh, wow. And we roll over 3 times and get halfway down. So it's about 150 yards. We were thrown down the hill. And the only tree on for like a quarter of a mile one way and an eighth of a mile another, stopped the car and held it upside down on the hill.
Oh,
and we all survived that accident. And
wow.
the CHP officer that showed up was just flabbergasted. Then the sheriff showed up. He was flabbergasted. Everybody's like looking back and forth up and down the river going, that's the only tree big enough to have stopped you guys. So, and I just knew, I got in that car and I knew something really horrible was going to happen. But thank God everybody walked away from it, just, cuts and scratches, and that's about it. And nobody went through the windshield, which is what would have happened. And, oh my God, it just would have been really ugly. I don't think I'd be here to talk to you guys.
Oh, that's a miracle.
Today.
Well, it looks like you had some good angels on your shoulder for that one, huh?
I did. See, now I was about 16 when that was happening, but, and everybody knows the rabbit story when I was about 7, where the rabbit appeared in the driveway. So I've got that one going for me. I think there's another story that's very intriguing that I forgot about up until a few days ago. It was when my boyfriend, I had a gentleman that I was madly in love with when I was about, I must have been 20 or 21. And he was quite a bit older than I was, but we had an amazing relationship. And he was an artist and a painter, oil painter or a collage artist. I'm not, to this day, I still have like 15 of his paintings, and half of them are mixed media and the other half are oil and some are watercolor. So I guess he was just all over the map on that one. Anyhow, he was amazing. He was the love of my life. And, but again, he was a tortured artist, and instead of cutting off his ear, he decided to kill himself. So, he did, and it was very interesting because I was at Portland Community College at the time. No, I was at University of Portland at the time. And I had gone to school that morning. He followed me out. He had an old white Cadillac, a 1960-something white Cadillac, and I got on the freeway, and he waved goodbye to me, and he took off to the beach. I thought he was going there for a few days to paint, so I wasn't concerned. A couple days later, he doesn't show up. Nothing's happening. But the evening he left, and I came home. Well, no, it was the same night. I'm sorry. I did know that he had died. I didn't realize it at the moment, but I'll tell you guys what happened. I got home that evening. I went to bed, and halfway through the night, I'm half awake, and he walks in the room. He sits down on the bed, and he says, I just want to know that I'm so sorry. I know what I did to you. And he starts talking to me. And we had this conversation for about 4 or 5 minutes. And I said, come to bed. I'm tired. And I rolled over, went back to sleep. And the next day, the police came to the house to tell me that they'd found him dead at the beach, and he'd killed himself. And I asked when, and they said, probably midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I said, oh, great. So it was obviously he came to me right after he died. We had a whole conversation, and I couldn't understand. I was half asleep, and I kept going, why are you sorry? What'd you do? I kept saying things like that, And then, do you remember when The Sixth Sense came out?
Oh, yeah. That was a great one.
The only way he could talk to his wife was when she was half asleep or asleep. Mm-hmm. And I just was, when that happened, I was a wreck. I was in the theater. I was crying all over the place. I couldn't even make it through the movie. I had to watch it years later because that just tore me up.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, I saw his ghost, and I actually saw his ghost again later. So, but that's another whole story for another day. So anyhow, I guess I've been seeing ghosts, and but not often. I don't see ghosts like, all these famous psychics out there who see spirit all the time. Mm-hmm. Mine just happen to be people that are close to me. For some reason, they all come and talk to me when they die.
That's good.
My grandmother did the same thing. I had a boyfriend when I was about 18 that had cancer. When I met him, he had already, he'd made it through 5 years of no cancer. He was doing really well, but we broke up, and years later, I'm again, I'm half asleep, and I was on a couch, or I was watching TV at the time, and I thought I heard him talking to me. And I was like, where are you? You know, my brain is going, where are you? I mean, it's just, he was talking to me. And I was like, what? And then I thought I felt his presence in the room. And I kept going, but why would he he would have been 42 when he died. And I thought, oh, that's weird. Why is he coming to me now after all these years? You know, what's going on? My father called me 2 days later and said, oh, by the way, do you remember your friend? And I said, yes. And I'm not going to say his name. Do you remember your friend so-and-so? And he goes, yeah, his wife called us to tell us that your number was in his book, and that he was supposed to call and let you know if anything happened to him. You know, because I guess he hadn't been feeling well or whatever. And so he came to me also. But this was like 15 years after I hadn't even seen him for ages and ages and ages. So I do have contact. It's not, you know, your psychic, you know, person contact, but definitely people I'm very close to always seem to come and find me when they're dead.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's more controlled, too, which is probably better than air traffic control, where you're constantly getting bombarded.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you know, so Lars, I don't know if I could handle that. I honestly don't think I could. It'd just be overwhelming. I just don't know what those people do, you know?
Well, no comment. I've been there. Yeah, it's
oh my God. So what's it like?
Well, it's just like a lot of bombardment with dialogue, image. Well, you know, that happened after I was inducted in 2004, but I dealt with a lot of the artificial intelligence, but that dealt with synthetic telepathy and dialogue and a lot of things that was basically, it's multitasking a lot of different things at once, and you never get the quiet time. So, yeah, and before that, I mean, I've always had the psychic visions like you, and I've always been very perceptive and clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient naturally, and I've been able to control that. But when you get interfaced, it's a little bit different. So I'm glad that you've had the opportunity to experience the natural spiritual aspect to natural psychic ability versus the other stuff.
Exactly. And you know what? I only had, and I guess I should tell everybody that story tonight. And you know, if you've heard it before, folks, I hope you don't mind me telling it again. But I'm going to tell the story about how I met Max and the whole weekend at Awake and Aware, and what changed my whole life. I mean, really changed it. I thought up until September of 2011 that I was on the path of the spiritual UFO conscious life type of, you know, environment, and that everything was what you made it. I really believe that. I believe that, you know, your spirit, your life, your love, and whatever you have that comes through you, you make that happen every day. You know, we live in a holographic universe, and you create your universe. And you know, Solaris, I really believe that. And I did not really believe in evil. I believe that we created evil, that man created evil, but only for themselves. And yes, it would bleed over into war, murder, you know, those type of things. But they weren't something that like we were born with, or that happened to us and made us that way. It was something that we chose to fall into. I mean, you know. Yeah. I really believe that. But now, I hate to say this, and I know I sound wacko crackers to most people, but I truly believe there is an evil influence out there that really does have control over a lot of people in the world. And through the mind control, I'm starting to believe it more and more and more. Because like what happened to you, that had to be evil.
Oh, it was.
Made that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, the people involved were not necessarily positive people. And of course, you know, when they start opening up those doors through the communication system, they're actually opening up a different portal to allow disembodied entities also to piggyback on the frequency. So not only am I getting harassed by a handler live feed real time, but then there's the extra artificial intelligence plus whatever they have that hijacks, you know, entities, disembodied spirits. So you're right. Once they start doing the mind control and they start fracturing the astral body, then they can easily insert all these disembodied spirits and entities and whatever you want to call them. But yeah.
Exactly.
But go ahead. I'm interviewing you.
And this is interesting that you said that, because in the last just few months, I have really come to the conclusion that once they figured out how to bring up demons through Satanism, and that's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, of course, maybe thousands. But once they figured out how to do that, I believe they figured out a way to do it through computers with an AI intelligence that piggybacks onto that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that sounds crazy.
No, I mean, I've been there. I mean, literally, I've been there, interfaced with the artificial intelligence, and I'm telling you, yes. I mean, it's literally, well, I call it electronic possession because it can take on the form of a possession, but it's still artificial intelligence based. Yeah, that's the beast, Lorien. I mean, this is the thing that's been going on and destroying people's lives, and that's why I'm so grateful that you're out there, addressing mind control, because it's huge. It's a huge issue.
It is. And I think it covers every facet of our lives now. And it from the minute we wake up until we go to bed at night, we're bombarded by every kind of wave, frequency, Wi-Fi, for example, just the radiation off of your computer monitors. I don't know if the new flat screens have it, but I remember the old CTRs did. I mean, everything that's out there now has a definite signature coming at you. For example, when I was a kid in the 60s on the farm, there was nothing around me that was giving me those kind of frequencies except the radiation from the bombs that was up in the atmosphere and the sun. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm getting those. But nowadays, you can't go anywhere. I mean, my whole neighborhood is full of little smart meters. Who knows what they're doing for 10 feet out around each one of them. Mm-hmm. And, and all the chips in the computer. So anyhow, I think that, and this is another thing that I'm starting to wonder, if the Satanists that my good friend Stu Webb and all the gang are talking about up in Denver, Colorado, the guys that run the Evil Cabal, and we know who the 12 or 13 are that do these rituals, plus they use all of our politicians as much as they can to help them. I'm starting to wonder if they aren't using computer interfaces to get through the rituals now instead of these actual physical rituals.
Oh, I believe they are, yeah.
Have you heard anything about this? Because it's
started
popping into my head the last few months.
Just because of where I've been, Lorien, and how I was inducted in the technology they used on me, I'm well aware of what it can do and how it can control people and how they can insert certain things. And I'm sure they could perform any kind of black mass or whatever you want to call it into the target. Yeah, without a doubt. You're dealing with a real nasty little beast that they have generated.
Yes. And I think, and this is another, hypothesis on my part, folks, I think remote viewing is used as the main way to transfer the type of evil energy that they want to the people they want to. If you want to call, like Solaris, I think that in the dark arts, in the dark witchcraft, they've been doing remote viewing to transfer their evil whatever to people all the time. I mean, that's basically what it is.
Yeah, the only difference now is that remote viewing was militarized, but they glorified psychic awareness, remote influencing, and trained people into a more of a militarized program with remote viewing. But you're right. I mean, it's the same concept of influencing somebody psychically, but also they have a lot more little gadgets now that they can use against the target, and right down to the psychotronic programming, which is all about forcing visuals and experiences and sensations, and that's all interfaced on artificial intelligence as well. So that's a nasty little beast, and once again, that's where they get their visuals, and they get people think they've been abducted by aliens, and it's not aliens, it's a psychotronic program. So you have to know the difference.
Exactly. And this is really, the bottom line here, Solaris. I've been looking at it. I've been looking at it like a giant spider web, and in one strand of the web between the two, connecting strand of string or whatever the spider's doing. All those are the different types of the interfaces, whether it's a implant or whether it's actual waveform or whether it's Wi-Fi or, those type of things, they're all connecting those main strands together. And what I'm trying to figure out, and maybe you've already got the answer to this, I'm sure you probably do since you're one of the experiencers, is what is in the center controlling all of those web paths going out. Is it the AI or is it more than that?
Well, I think it's the AI, but I also feel like it's more connected to black programming, and so far as the black space program goes, and off-world technology merged with their artificial intelligence. It's my take that they've actually stolen a lot of what I would call extraterrestrial technology and have used that to reverse engineer it into their artificial intelligence, which they use in the black space program in the undergrounds. So that's what people are getting interfaced with. That's the beast that's kind of unstoppable right now because it's cloaked and it's in the underground and it's encrypted and it's hard to access and it targets people. And once you get targeted, it's all encrypted. So it's very hard to disable it.
Exactly. Well, I think you and I and everybody else that's coming to this conference this year, as far as Kevin Annett, Judy Byington, Robert Duncan, Dr. John Hall, and I must say, folks, Dr. John Hall and Robert Duncan were both featured in the Jesse Ventura Brain Invaders episode. Wasn't it called Brain Invaders, or was it Mind Invaders, something like that. I think it was Brain Invaders. And these are the guys that went up there. Dr. John Hall. Do you know about Dr. John Hall?
Oh, yeah.
You had him on your show?
I have his book, yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. He was the guy who was, he hypnotized the guy to have a limp and then not know he had the limp, and he was limping around the office, and the guy looks at him and says, Jesse looks at him and says, "Hey, you're limping there, buddy." He goes, "No, I'm not." So I thought, wow, and people want to all believe that guy just was doing that as a hoax for the show. But folks, I'm telling you, I've seen people do some really amazing stuff under hypnosis. Hypnosis is a truly, it's a tool that are the black people or the satanic people or whoever you want to call them, they're using it to its full force right now. And if you don't think they are, go back to Saran. That poor guy, he was totally hypnotized into killing Bobby Kennedy.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Well, back then they used to take people away and physically isolate them in different rooms for their type of programming. Now they can just do it remotely. That's what's so scary about it. It's all psychotronically driven and it's all interfaced with dialogue. So when people hear voices, they're not schizophrenic. They're actually hearing a mock communication system of dialogue that's manufactured and synthetic. And this is what's cracking me up because you've got people in these, psychiatric units that are basically stuffing meds down people's throats that are legitimately normal, that have been attacked or harassed by some type of an outside psychotronic program.
Yes, I totally agree with you. How many people do you think are truly schizophrenic? I mean, to the point where they're hearing voices in their head. I don't think it's nearly as many as they're trying to make us believe. I
agree. I think people are naturally psychic, and I think sometimes if they do a lot of drugs, they'll fracture the astral body to some degree, and they might get some symptoms like that. But for the most part, I know, since I've been through this technology, I know exactly what it does and how they break people down and how they program them and what the symptoms are that they try to create. And people have come to me in the past too. I mean, these were people that were forced into suicide later on because they couldn't take the duress of the dialogue. So I'm well aware that this stuff is causing that illusion of schizophrenic behavior when in fact these people are actually very intelligent and very normal.
Exactly. You just reminded me of something very sad that happened last year right before the summit. I got a phone call from a young lady and she said, "Lorien, I just found out about you, but they're pulling the car up in the driveway right now." And I said, "Well, what do you mean they're pulling the car up in the driveway?" She goes, "My family's taking me to a psychiatric hospital." And I said, "Oh, no." I said, "Can you stop them?" She goes, "No, I can't because I opened my big mouth. I've got 2 kids and a husband, and my mother-in-law is extremely concerned. They're all worried about me. And I'm hearing voices talking to me." And I said, "Oh, well, when did this all start?" She goes, "Oh, about 6 months ago." And I said, "How old are you?" She says, "I'm in my early 30s. I said, "Do you think it's other people telling you what to do? Or do you think it's really schizophrenia where it's some odd character telling you what to do? I mean, do they have a name? Do they have a military calling when they call you?" Because a lot of these people are calling me and saying, yeah, they tell me they're in the military. They tell me they're either a Navy SEAL or they're working for the CIA or the NSA, and they give me their first name. Sometimes they laugh at me and give me their rank and where they're calling me from in my head. And I'm like, wow. I mean, that's pretty detailed for schizophrenia.
Yeah, well,
You know?
exactly. And also you're dealing with a mock radio signal. Once again, everything is radio signals on this earth. I mean, we're bombarded by signals. All they have to do is hijack a signal and get in and interface it onto the electromagnetic field of the target. So it's not that hard to do. And honestly, I mean, a lot of people are getting hit with that. And it's very sad that these people aren't educated, so they automatically put them in institutions or suggest they go to a shrink. That's the worst thing they could possibly do. What they need to do is understand it's technological. I mean, I guarantee you 99% of the time it's a technological attack.
Yeah, and I'm starting to believe that too. But the one thing I do tell everybody who contacts me, and I know you do this as well, is if they, the first time I talk to them, I say, look, what I want you to do is I want you to go see a psychiatrist. If you can afford it, I want you to get help. I want you to go talk to somebody, and I want you to rule out the fact that you've got schizophrenia. And if it means going on some kind of weird drug to numb your mind for 4 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it takes to prove to yourself and prove to your psychiatrist that you are not crazy and that this is happening to you in spite of all the drug protocol, because supposedly if they dope you up enough and you are schizophrenic, it does cut off the nerve frequencies, that nerve firing that causes you to hear this voice in your head, supposedly. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're actually getting communication through the mind control and however else they're doing it, the drugs don't work. Mm-hmm, I've talked to everybody I've talked to has said, look, Lorien, the drugs don't even work. Mm-mm.
They'll take the edge off and they'll make them sleep, but they'll still be bombarded with the psychotronic program.
Exactly. And that's how you can tell, too.
Mm-hmm, I mean, absolutely.
Oh, and the other way you can tell, a couple of people have said that there are some blankets out there that work as a Faraday cage, and some things like that you can get that you can actually put around your head. And I know this is going to sound funny, everyone, but I even had a guy call me that said he was putting aluminum foil around his head, and it was actually working quite well.
I'm surprised, because you think in the old days we used to make better signals with a television set, remember?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know what he was doing to make this aluminum foil work, but he said it helped him.
Well, that's good.
It must have been his frequency. That's what I thought.
And they're all different too. They're not. I mean, it could be gang stalked. It could be coming from so many different directions. There's so many different levels to it. There's so many different flavors to this whole thing. That's really amazing to me when I think about the different avenues they're using. And the sad thing is, we have a government right now, which is a corporation that knows exactly what's happening and is in denial deliberately so that they can continue their agenda to destroy people's lives. And that's huge. I mean, this is what I call major terrorism.
Exactly. And I don't even know where to go, but I want to tell people what happened to me on that weekend. And I'm going to do the brief version, not the long version, because we've got a lot to talk about tonight. Okay. But the brief version is this. I went to Los Angeles to the Awaken Aware conference in September of 2011. On Saturday night, I had quite a few super soldier type of experiences there, but this is the part where I tell everybody this is when I knew things were my life was going to change completely. Back in May of 2011, there was a woman who went on Carrie Cassidy's a whistleblower radio here on Revolution Radio, and her name was Asolaria Liberalis, and she went on the show, and I thought, oh my God, this woman's amazing. I wonder if she needs some help, with her book and getting her stuff out, and I called her in June of 2011, and about the third or fourth phone call in June or early July, we had decided to go to the Awaken Aware conference, and I had she was talking to me about something on the phone. It's an afternoon, it's the middle of the week, it's nice outside, I'm sitting there, and as she's talking to me, everyone, I had this profound commitment happen in my own mind to myself that I was going to do something to actually help everybody out there and really change the world. Because at that point, my path was very focused on UFO CON and MUFON and really dealing with the alien agenda. But something told me I had a much more spiritual path to be on that was going to help people that were really in need of my help. I didn't know what it was. I just had this profound feeling, and instead of fighting it and saying, "Oh, I'm not going to do that," I just kind of gave into it and said, "Okay, who's ever calling me," and that's what it felt like, truly a calling in the moment. I said, "I will do whatever you need me to do, and I'll take care of it. I'll do it." And I knew that my life was going to change at that point. But also, what happened in an instant of a second, once I gave into that, yes, I will do it, and it's more important service to others instead of service to self type thing. And once I truly gave into it, Solaris, there was a helicopter over my house instantly. I mean, within the thought process, the helicopter was there. And it was very low and it was very loud. And I was startled. And I said to Solari, I said, do you hear that? And she goes, yeah, wow, it's really low. And I went, yeah. And I did not hear it come. It didn't come to the house. It appeared over the house, or the sound did anyhow. I sent my roommate outside to look at it, and it was a black type of, I want to say Chinook, but I don't even know what they all are, but it was a smaller version, and he could see a guy inside. The door was shut on the side, and he could see a guy inside with the helmet and the black goggles on, and another guy in the front driving it, of course, or piloting it. And he came back in and said, yeah, it's black. And he told me what it looked like. And I said, wow, they're after me. And we were laughing about it. So I'm just like, it was circling the house for about a minute and a half. And then it slowly went away. Okay. And it was very low and it was circling nose in, but I never heard it get here. Okay. I never heard it at all. It just suddenly was there as loud as heck. Okay, so fast forward now to September. Her and I decided to go to Wake and Aware together. We're down there. It's Saturday night, and I'm not going to go into all the other things that happened, but this, I think, is just truly the most important part of everything that's ever happened to me. Because other people just go, oh, yeah, right. But it's just, to me, it's the key. And I still have yet to crack it, and maybe I never will, and maybe it doesn't matter. But this is what really solidified changing my life. We got home from the conference on Saturday night about 1 o'clock in the morning, about 2 or 3. I'm getting ready for bed. I decided to go check my email. When I pop open my laptop, I'm sitting on the side of the bed, pop open the laptop, and I think to myself, hey, I wonder if Solaria remembers the day the helicopter came over my house. The second I thought this, Solaris, there was a helicopter over the house in Anaheim where we were staying. And I did not hear it come there. And it was really loud. And I'm thinking, oh, my God. And I was petrified. Now, this time, I'm not just laughing it off like, aha, a helicopter shows up out of nowhere like everybody else gets. This time, I'm petrified because I'm thinking to myself, oh, my God, how did they know I thought that? That's what was going through my head. Not that there was a helicopter over the house, waking everybody up, I thought. Now, I'm looking back on this whole incident a couple years later, and I'm starting to realize that maybe the light shifting on next door was just because maybe somebody tripped a light or something, an animal tripped the light. Maybe that car light I saw was maybe it was a car light, not another house light turning on next door. I thought it was the helicopter. I thought it was triggering everybody to wake up.
Well, they can remotely turn lights on and off, so that's something they do.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know, but they had me thinking at the time that the whole neighborhood was waking up. Okay. Because there were dogs barking. I was hearing some dogs barking. And that might have been just dogs barking. And now here's where it gets even weirder. Okay. So now my mind is like freaking out because I'm going, can they read my mind? I mean, this is what I'm thinking, Solaris. I'm thinking they can read my mind. What's going on? And I finally get enough courage to walk to the window on the side of the room. I look up out the window and I don't see a helicopter. What I see are 3, they look like embers in a fire, red glowing lights in a triangle shape. And I realize it's probably a UFO, a triangle UFO. So now my brain is really freaking out because I'm hearing a helicopter as loud as day, which I think is waking up the whole neighborhood. But I look out the window and it's probably one of our giant triangle spacecraft up about a mile, And my brain can't handle it. At that point, I just kind of shut down and I decided I was going to bed.
Wow.
I know. It's like Well, what happens now? It's like I just didn't even know how to react to it or do anything or. But 2 years later, now I'm absolutely convinced. Oh, by the way, I woke up the next day and I asked everybody in the house, "Did you hear the helicopter last night?" And everybody's like, "We never heard a thing." And I know that half of them had just gone to bed, so they weren't asleep yet.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way they were asleep. So they would have heard it. So now I'm starting to wonder if whoever is doing this to me, for whatever reason, they put that sound in my head, and it may have been the Black Ops people, whoever's flying our giant triangle spacecrafts.
Mm-hmm.
And why? I have no idea. Why me? That's number 2. And that's the other place I wanted to go to tonight also, is the whole why me problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because after this all happened to me, it took me about 3 months to get over the super soldier part, because on Monday morning waking up, I had a full, what I call my full blown recall memory of being used in a super soldier program. And it's the only one I've ever had. And I don't want any more. And I don't want to know why, what, when, where, and how. I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
But I still am wondering why they do this to people. It's not just me. I'm not curious about me. And we must tell everybody, Slars, because you know this as well as I do. What happens to people who are have these things happen to them or have recall memories or whatever, usually they spend a good portion of the next 5 to 10 or 20 years of their life wondering who, what, when, where, and why. And the biggest question they all have is why me? And they get stuck in what I call the looping process, because almost to a T, you and I and a couple other people I know are the only people I know that have really escaped this, where we're actually back to our normal selves. We know who we are and we don't have any problems.
I'm not programmable, and I don't think you are either. We might have memory or recall of experiences, but they knew they couldn't break me, and that's one of the reasons they gave up after. But I was interfaced, and I still have the anomaly signals. I mean, I'm interfaced with the technology still. It just doesn't control me. But and I was lucky enough to know who my handler was and who the parties were, and a lot of people aren't. I mean, so they have a lot of questions in their head, insofar as who, what, when, where. But you're right. I think it has a lot to do with the DNA, though. I really do, and I think it has a lot to do with psychic abilities and what people are capable of doing. They're really scanning for people with a certain bloodline, I think, on a lot of different levels. So
I'm beginning to think that plays into it too. I mean, that's truly part of it. Also, even if there aren't people being abducted all the time, I still think there is some kind of program going on with aliens. Now, whether it was about making these hybrid children they're always talking about, I believe it was to get the DNA from all of us down here to see how far they can control us.
Right. Well, and also you realize they've been reverse engineering UFO technology in the underground bases area for a very long time. That also includes extraterrestrials. So a lot of people who say they've had extraterrestrial encounters on the underground bases are actually encountering engineered extraterrestrials by our division. And those are the ones that are also, they always hear the synthetic telepathy. They'll always be telepathic naturally because they're interfaced with the artificial intelligence. So that's something else to look at as well. Yes, some are off-worlders and a lot are ours engineered.
I agree. I totally agree with you. I had another friend who's been dealt with the Greys on some levels, and I can't go into his personal story. But there's one thing he did tell me. He says, I am absolutely convinced now that they have a hive mind. And I probed him on that, and I said, what do you mean by a hive mind? And he goes, well, they're either being controlled by a computer or some kind of artificial intelligence, or they truly have like a hive mind like the Borg. Which is run through some type of artificial intelligence. There has to be a main, computer system or organic computer system. See, this is something we don't perceive very well as humans right now in our time, space-time. Organic computers, just like the Borg Queen, she's basically an organic computer system. And she's able to interface with everybody in the hive. just like
exactly.
a bee would be able to. So, I mean, people have got to realize this is where they're heading with us.
Right. And the funny thing is, I'm all for technology. I love technology and I love synthetic telepathy. I really do. But what I'm seeing is that they're misusing the technology. And that's why I addressed it and came forward, because they're ruining people's lives. This isn't about freedom. This isn't about evolution. This is about control, manipulation, brainwashing, inserting memories, removing things from the mind. It's pathetic what they're doing.
Well, they're not making Solaris or leaving Lorien as Lorien.
No, they're actually modifying, or they're trying to create something that will suit them.
Exactly.
And that's not okay with me. I believe in the higher self, oversoul, superconscious, and I'm very spiritual. And then when people try to, convert me into something that I'm not meant to be, and I'm literally talking about, you see these Manchurian candidates all the time, all these shooters that have been happening. We all know that they've been psychotronically programmed. It's a no-brainer to know these guys have been psychotronically programmed. Now, why mainstream media is still shutting up about it and not coming forward? Well, obviously they're paid off, right? Which is infuriating.
Well, Solaris, I don't think they're as much paid off as they are mind controlled.
Yeah, that's very true. Good point. Yeah.
Because I listen to these people and they truly don't even, it's like, okay, I'm going to go back and tell you my story again about Thanksgiving dinner. I'm going to just bring this up because it's the one thing that I can cut through to the chase with everybody quickly on. I was about 16 years old. It was Thanksgiving. I'm with my whole family. There's a bunch of Italians. I mean, everybody's talking at once. We're all talking. And I said, hey, does anybody want to talk about and I think I said extraterrestrials. I don't think I said aliens because I was reading a lot of science fiction when I was younger. So I think I said extraterrestrials. And I was also watching Star Trek and all that stuff. So, I was very excited about it. And I said it kind of loud and the whole room, literally not a sound. It's like everybody heard me. They all turned and looked at me. There was, 1,000, 2, 1,000. Then they all turned back to who they were talking to and continued their conversation. And I'm thinking now, many, many years later, I finally realized what that was all about. It's that they're in their minds, since none of them had read any science fiction or done any Star Trek or whatever, and these are a lot of older Italians or what have you, most of I'd say my grandmother is probably the only one who ever talked to me about anything like that because she was a psychic and she was a card reader. And my other grandmother was a Rosicrucian, so she had a very interesting psychic ability as well. Yeah,
I'm sure you inherited on that end, yeah.
Yeah. So what was interesting about this 20 years later, I'm going, okay, now I get it. What it is that they don't even have it in their brain to comprehend what I was even talking about. There's nothing to discuss because they didn't understand it. They didn't know what it was. They had no idea the concept or anything about it. It's just like, somebody told me that there was a movie where the Mayans were looking at the Spanish ships and they didn't really see them because they didn't know what they were, that it wasn't in their paradigm to even know what it was.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So here it all comes down to the people in the media right now. They may hear about this stuff and they probably kind of laugh it off like these people need psychiatry or whatever, but they don't believe it's true, because they've been so programmed not to believe in anything like this because it either means the person's on drugs or the person's insane. And they can't get, they're also taught lately, and I've just been hearing this from some friends of mine that are actually in normal media. What they're taught now is if they can't find the source and they can't get hard, solid evidence about anything, then they can't bring it to any of their bosses to even put in a paper or put on TV or what have you, because there's nothing there to back it up. And so that leaves out anything that has to do with mind control because they're not going to leave those people with any kind of evidence anywhere.
Right. Well, there's usually a signature. Obviously, there's implants and things like that you can scan. And, of course, Steve Colbert, I believe he's going to be at the Super Soldier Summit, Mind Control Summit, rather. So he'll be able to scan people also. I mean, there'll always be an anomaly There'll be something that will show and kind of create a signature that people can detect that indicate that there's some kind of a programming going on that's not normal. And I'm not talking psychological issues. I'm talking interface. I'm talking technological interference. And so we can actually map that. We can trap it. We can show it. And you know that, and I know that, and I've shown that on my documentary, as a matter of fact. So
yes,
I mean, there's no excuse for these guys to be sliding away, just pretending it doesn't exist.
Why, Solaris? What I don't understand is why isn't your DVD? Why isn't it the top thing on television?
Honey, because the party's involved. Because it's a cult classic right now. You know, the bottom line is it's all fact. It's a public record. But yet it's kind of just hidden, it's just hidden in plain sight. And you know what? If they want to be that way, that's fine by me. But at least I have the truth out there as a benchmark. But I'll tell you what, I'll never back down because I know the technology like the back of my hand. And Robert Duncan knows it too. So, I mean, there's no way I'll ever back down from knowing what I know. It ain't going to happen. I won't erase my mind and I won't forget. And I suspect that most people who have been interfaced with this type of technology don't forget either. So...
Well, now it's interesting you said that because here's something that I've noticed has been happening to me ever since I saw that triangle UFO or whatever I saw. It's been trying to erase itself from my memory.
Interesting.
And I've talked to other people about this, and they have those problems too. What happens is, I truly believe this, when they give you those kind of thoughts or memories or experiences, they also at the same time also try to get it so they push it to the back of your brain so you start forgetting it. It becomes like a faded memory.
Absolutely.
So I have to tell my story quite frequently because if I don't, I'm afraid that I'll wake up 3 years from now and I will have forgotten it.
Right, and also write a biography if you can. But we're going to head for a break real quick. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back. Lorien Fenton.
Okay.